Welcome back to Team O'Neill. I'm Wyatt. Today, we're going to learn how to launch a race car. Get ready, 3, 2, 1, go. I'll give you guys kind of the quick Cliff Notes version, and then we'll hop in the car and really dive into it, because there's actually a lot to kind of getting it right and getting the most out of a launch like this. But essentially what you're looking to do here is hold the car with the handbrake, have the clutch in first gear, build up the RPM to the appropriate amount for the car that you're in, and when it's finally 3, 2, 1, go time, you're gonna fully disengage the clutch as you let the handbrake down and apply throttle. And if you can manage to do all of that in a fairly coordinated way, you're gonna get a good launch. There are, however, a lot of ways to screw that up, and every car is gonna be different. So let's hop in this Subaru Turbo car on gravel here and give it a shot. All right. So if you're in a position where you know you're going to need to launch a car, you're at a rally, you're showing up at an autocross, whatever it is, a drag race, makes no difference. If you at all have the opportunity to get some heat into the tires and or the brakes and everything else, definitely do that. You'll see most rally cars, hold well before the start line and then go through this process of steering and braking and throttle and braking and steering and drive really erratically and hard on the car for, 100 yards or something like that before you show up at the start line, because you want to build up some heat in those tires before you get out on stage, or you get out, you see drag racers do it before the actual launch. They smoke the tires a little bit, get some heat built up. Make sure the engine is at a good operating temperature, the fluids, everything is happy. And as you pull up to the start line, the more everything can be at operating temperature, the better off you're going to be, not just for the launch, but for the first, few miles of racing. It's going to be a huge advantage. So get things up to temp if you all can. As you pull up to the start line, in a rally, every car goes once every minute. So you're going to have, a minute from when the car in front of you launches, and then you're going to look at it, pull up, and then you're going to go 60 seconds after they did. So pick your spot, and you can see at an autocross, at a rally cross, wherever you are, put your car on the most level surface with the best grip and give yourself the best chance you're going to have to launch that car effectively. If you park on some off camber or in the deep ruts or in a weird spot, especially in a two-wheel drive car, you're just going to spin and you can lose, 2, 3, 5 seconds right off the start line just because you parked in maybe not the best place. So pull up, take a look at the start line, figure out where you want to be, where you can put your tires, and you're good to go. So just to count it down, 30 seconds from the start, your clutch is in, you're in first gear. As it counts down to about 10 seconds out, hold the handbrake and move your right foot over to the throttle. So now you're holding the vehicle in place with the handbrake, your right foot's over the gas, so you're kind of getting prepared to launch this thing at about that 10-second mark. When it gets down to about 5 seconds to go, again, this is personal preference. If you have a crew chief or somebody working on your team, do whatever they say, or whatever. If you're in a GT3, Porsche, do whatever you're supposed to do in that. But generally, about 5 seconds from the launch, I'm gonna rev the engine up to that preset RPM where I know I want to be. So kind of that human launch control. 5 seconds out, I'm gonna get it up to 3,500, 4,000 RPM. You can watch the boost gauge, you can watch whatever you need to do, but you're gonna sit on the start line for that 5 seconds at 4,000 RPM. As it goes from 5 to 4 to 3, at 3, I'm gonna let the clutch out a little bit. And all that's gonna do, as you let the clutch out a little bit, is it's gonna allow the gears in the transmission to meet and do what they need to do, so there's no slop in the transmission. The mounts are gonna flex a little bit, the diff and the drive line, and everything is gonna get under load. So kind of like a cat ready to pounce or something like that. You've set everything in that stress condition at about 3 seconds by preloading the clutch a little bit. Not enough that you're gonna burn the clutch out, but just take the slack out of that clutch and the whole drive line at that 3 second mark, and then you're just sitting there for the last 3 seconds, just waiting and not jumping the gun, because you'll usually get a pretty significant penalty if it's 3, 2, 1 and you take off. You're gonna get smoked by the time. So do whatever you need to do. At that 5 second mark, rev the engine up to the preset. Here we are at 4,000 RPM. 3, 2, 1, go. I didn't have enough RPM. So you can tell this thing at, 3,500, 4,000 RPM, when I let the clutch out, it just went brr, brr, and that's not what we're looking for. Especially in an all-wheel drive car, you're gonna deal with that, but let's do another launch and we can do a better job. All right, about 30 seconds out, you're gonna put it in first gear, happy, no problems. About 10 seconds out, right foot over the throttle, holding the car with the handbrake. About 5 seconds out, you're gonna build up that throttle. I'm going to about 4,500, 5,000 RPM. 3 seconds out, preload the clutch a little bit. 2, 1, go. Good launch. Just time that shift into second, time third, and you're good. And that's what you're really looking for, especially on gravel, is that little bit of wheel spin as you go. But you will see everyone from drag racing to the start line of any kind of race, a little bit of wheel spin off the start, even on pavement, is definitely an advantage. The other thing to be aware of on pavement with racing clutches and racing transmissions and stuff like that is a little bit of wheel spin is a lot better than slipping the clutch, burning the clutch, having problems like that, or having a weak launch. If you have that little bit of wheel spin as you go, you're gonna get a really strong launch. So that's the basics of how to launch a rally car, race car, or something like that. What did we learn? What did I learn? This all-wheel drive Subaru, I had to be a lot higher in the revs than I thought I needed to initially in order to get it to dig a little bit and get a little bit of wheel spin off the start and get a really good launch like I was looking for. The reason for that is that I'm used to two-wheel drive. A two-wheel drive car, whether it's front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, you just don't need to be that high up in order to get a little bit of wheel spin from the start. Is just a lot easier to do. So most two-wheel drive cars, yeah, I'm at 4,000 RPM is more than enough to launch on hard gravel like this, where this all-wheel drive turbo car, I was up by 5,000, 6,000 RPM to get a good launch out of it off that start line without just bogging down. Disclaimer on this stuff, out in the real world, what's going to happen to you if you're launching cars this hard? How many times do you think you can do that before you break something? Be that your clutch, your transmission, a differential, an axle, CV joint, your tires, anything like that. It's all going to be kind of hard on the car, obviously, to do this too many times. The more grip you have, the more true that is. The more slippery it is, you could do that 1,000 times on ice without ever hurting the car, versus on pavement. If you go out to the amateur drag races, half those cars leave on a flatbed because they broke something on the line. So just be aware of the more grip you've got, especially as you start getting into big sticky tires on pavement. You're going to have to uprate all of those driveline components in order to take that load off the line. On gravel, for the most part, for rally cars, for rallycross cars, you can get away with a lot of good hard launches like that without too much wear and tear, even on a pretty stock standard car. One other thing to be aware of when you're launching kind of more modern all-wheel drive cars, when you get into Subaru STIs and proper rally cars, what you're gonna find is the timing of releasing the handbrake, dumping the clutch, applying throttle, right at that critical launch point, you've got to make sure you get that handbrake down or released if it's spring loaded before you let the clutch all the way up. The reason for that is a Subaru STI or a modern, rallycross car or something like that, the handbrake disconnects the rear drive. So that you can do handbrake turns. The problem with that is if you're on the start line with the handbrake pulled, if you let the clutch out with that handbrake still on, it's only going to be front wheel drive. And then as you let the handbrake off the rest of the way, it's going to go bang and engage, the rear axle, and it's going to be really hard and violent on the car. Again, different cars are different. If you hop in, Vermont Sports Car's most modern all-wheel drive car, it probably has a system that takes care of that for you. But, different cars, listen to the crew chief, talk to the team, whatever it is, how to launch that specific car is always going to be a bit of a variable. But by default, let that handbrake go completely before you get that clutch all the way up, and it'll be a lot mechanically easier on the car depending on the systems it has. That's all I got for you. If you got any questions, please leave them in the comment section. We'll get to those as we can. If you're interested in launching some rally cars and sliding around corners and doing pendulum turns and trail braking and handbrake turns and everything else, check out Team O'Neill Rally School. Run courses all year round up here in the woods of New England. If you like these kinds of videos, give us the old thumbs up and subscribe. We're putting out some more content as we go along. Other than that, be safe, have fun, and we'll catch you next time.